Hello everyone, Harry Baldock here, editor for Total Telecom. We're here today on day one of MWC. I'm delighted to be joined by Stefan Pongratz from Dell'Oro Group. Stefan, how's the day going for you so far?
So far so good. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. I think one of the real key topics that we're here to discuss at MWC is the continued evolution of 5G and moving towards 5G Advanced. What are the main opportunities you see from 5G Advanced?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, just a little bit of recap so far. 5G, I think we've come a long way with 5G. If you look at the operator investment, they've invested 0.4 trillion globally, cumulative capex to date, 20 million plus radios. But at the same time, I think the results have been mixed. On the one hand, 5G coverage has been, I would say, actually pretty good. Some estimates suggest it's 45% of the global population that's covered so far. So we're developing at a significantly faster, I would say, than LTE. I think we reached the same milestone in early 2016. So from a coverage perspective, very good. Coverage mobile broadband, very good. From a capacity perspective as well, when you look at the proliferation of massive MIMO in the upper mid-band, we've seen a stepwise reduction in the data delivery cost, 50 to 70% cost per bit reduction. So from that perspective, it's very good. But at the same time, as we know, when you look at the ability to reverse that flattish revenue carry revenue trajectory, that has not really been happening so far. So it's mostly about mobile broadband and fixed wireless access, and I think that's where 5G Advanced is now starting to come in, and they're starting to get some excitement, of course. I think when we look at opportunities, obviously from a data, and it's not the most exciting, but still from a mobile data traffic perspective, there's still a lot of opportunities. We're not growing exponentially like we used to in data traffic, but it's still, fairly, I would say, a reasonable scenario is another 3x of growth over the next 5 years. So it's any kind of incremental upside you can get there is gonna play a role and be appreciated. And then, of course, in addition, anything we can do in terms of industrial IoT and IoT and then more intelligence and automation into the network, I think there's going to be opportunities there, yeah.
And in terms of those kind of opportunities, what does this mean in terms of strategy for the MNOs? Where do you see the big opportunities? Where do you see the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's very tricky for the operators. I mean, there's a difference between investing the minimum amount needed to address what we know versus addressing what's needed to address what we don't know. That's always a challenge, and I think that's now as well going to be a challenge as we move to 5G Advanced. The operators are they're in this tricky situation because they haven't seen the ROI significantly materialize just yet. So I think on the one hand, though, what's a positive now with 5G Advanced, I think the operators, they don't need to rush things too much in terms of getting a 5G logo out there, because that's not the rationale for doing 5G Advanced. So I think the operators can approach it methodically and so how it fits with their roadmap. But at the same time, I do think there are opportunities, especially for with both what we know and what we don't know. For what we know, I mean, if you look at it so far, yes, on the one hand, 5G has advanced rather rapidly, but there's still a lot of, the performance is not excellent. There's still a lot of patchy areas outdoors, and especially indoor. I think there are opportunities for the operators to differentiate themselves. If we look back to a couple of years when we thought how 5G would unfold, one of the things we actually thought would transpire would be that the gap between outdoor and indoor deployments would actually be significantly reduced, and we've seen that happening in China, but outside of China, there's still a lot of indoor small cells that need. So I think that's one area where the operators actually can differentiate themselves from an experience perspective. In addition, an area of potential differentiation would be to address the cost structure of the network. So operators that can invest in intelligence and automation, they're going to have they could have a one-up against their competitor. Yeah.
And in terms of 2024 itself, 2024 rather, what do you imagine 5G Advanced is going to look like through the rest of the year? What are the main developments you're going to be looking out for? Yeah,
I mean, I think as we see now in the show and being here at MWC, we do see that I think the ecosystem is in pretty good standing. I think with the standards being frozen in the first half of 2024 now, I think we will see some initial commercial deployments in 2024. I wouldn't expect large scale, but there should be some initial commercial deployments in 2024. Probably more focused on the on what I would say the capacity, the gigabit, or as Huawei 5.5G is calling it, the 10 gigabit per second kind of capacity sites. So we'll see some initially, and then of course it will gradually improve in the beyond 2024. Yeah.
Stefan, it's been great to speak to you. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.